Welcome. I'm Elizabeth Durgan with the Women of Innovation Committee as co-chair, and we are excited you can join us to help celebrate. This is the first announcement of the 2021 Women of Innovation Finalists. And that will be followed by scientist Melissa Petruska's Women of Innovation Spotlight webinar, Catching the Entrepreneurial Spirit, a Scientist's Journey. And of course, we want to thank our sponsors, Medtronic, News8, WTNH, Pfizer, and Finalists. And if your organization wants to support Women of Innovation, please contact us at events@ct.org. There's going to be a Q&A session immediately following the presentation, and we encourage you to submit your questions anytime via the Q&A button on your screen. Today's presentation is being recorded, and we will provide you with a link as well as a slide deck shortly after the webinar's conclusion. And now I'm pleased to introduce the co-presenters of today's finalist announcement. Kerry Mull, Senior Manager, Technology Scouting and Innovation Management at Medtronic, and 2009 Large Business Innovation and Leadership Finalist and co-chair of the Women of Innovation Committee, as well as Jackie Garofano, who is CTC of the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology, a 2011 Collegiate Innovation and Leadership winner, and 2020 Large Business Innovation and Leadership Finalist. Thank you, and go ahead.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm honored to join Jackie on behalf of the Connecticut Technology Council and the Connecticut Center for Advancement in Technology Women of Innovation Committee to announce this year's finalists from our 10 categories, showcasing some amazing women from around Connecticut. I'm going to give you a couple minutes of background information around the Women of Innovation, and then Jackie and I will get right into the finalists. So in 2004, the Connecticut Technology Council, or CTC, created the Women of Innovation program to recognize and honor women innovators, role models, and leaders in science and technology. In addition to professionals working across all institutions and all industries within Connecticut, this program also recognizes young women of academic achievement at both the high school and collegiate levels. I'm proud to say, as a Medtronic employee, that Medtronic also annually provides an academic scholarship to the student who wins the high school category. In 2019, the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology, or CCAT, joined with CTC to present this annual Women of Innovation program. And over the past 17 years, Women of Innovation has received thousands of nominations of talented Connecticut women and has helped create a dynamic network of more than 850 finalists and winners in all 10 categories, studying and working in STEM fields across the state. So now Jackie and I are going to begin to announce the 2021 finalists that will join these ranks. Our first category has 5 finalists in the Youth Innovation and Leadership category, and the winner of this category will be receiving a scholarship from Medtronic for their collegiate endeavors. The winner is awarded to a female high school student who has demonstrated exceptional academic achievements in technology or science, or who has displayed inventiveness or creativity in their fields. Nominees must be juniors or seniors to be eligible to be nominated for this award.
Thanks, Kerry. Next up, we have our secondary academic innovation and leadership finalists. As you can see, there are 2 women who have been recognized for working in this academic setting that have created and fostered STEM programs in curriculum development, student research, teacher-student collaborations, as well as consistently demonstrating STEM leadership and innovation.
The Collegiate Innovation and Leadership category has 2 finalists, where each finalist is an undergraduate or graduate student that has demonstrated exceptional academic achievement in technology, science, or engineering areas of study, and who has displayed inventiveness or creativity in these fields.
Our post-secondary academic category also has 2 recognized finalists. These are women who are working in this setting that have again created and fostered STEM programs in the areas of curriculum development, research, student-teacher collaborations. Each finalist has secured outside funding to support her work and/or has received peer recognition for her leadership and innovation.
The 5 finalists in the Research and Innovation and Leadership category are women that have developed new knowledge or products or improved products in a corporate or academic setting. Each finalist has exhibited an original approach to her research as well as achieved peer recognition in this technology, science, or engineering discipline. She has also exhibited leadership ability by leading research teams, motivating staff, and securing funding and/or resources to enable her programs.
For our entrepreneurial innovation and leadership category, we also have 2 finalists. These women have founded their own companies or have helped to found a company here in Connecticut. She is a woman who has taken great professional and financial risk to make her idea a reality.
The Community Innovation and Leadership category has 4 finalists this year. And these women are employed in technology, science, or engineering fields and that have devoted their own time and their own resources or marshaled those of her company or organization to support community organizations or other nonprofits. The award is to a woman who has created or encouraged a culture of giving at her own company or has volunteered her own time outside of her workplace.
In our Inspiring STEM Equitability category, we are recognizing 2 finalists. Equitability, diversity, and inclusivity are not just women's issues. They are business, economic, and societal issues. Organizations need change leaders who will champion equitability and diversity and encourage others to also become change leaders. This award category recognizes an individual that works to create a climate that is not only diverse, but also inclusive of all people in such ways that further the success and promotion of the STEM fields. The Inspiring STEM Equitability Award is open to any individual, irrespective of gender expression, 17 years of age or older, who demonstrates a commitment to promoting equitability, diversity, and inclusivity in the STEM arena.
The Small or Medium Business Innovation and Leadership category has 5 finalists this year, and this award is awarded to a woman who has at least 3 years of managerial or technical experience in STEM fields, who has also managed a program, a project, or a business unit in an exemplary way in a small or medium business, which is defined as fewer than 499 employees.
And in our final category for large business innovation and leadership, we are recognizing many women in this arena. These finalists are women who have managed a program, project, or business unit in an exemplary way within a large corporation comprised of more than 500 employees, or if not in a big corporation, in professional service, a firm supporting professional services. Each finalist has at least 3 years of managerial or technical experience in technology, engineering, or science. And so on behalf of Kerry and myself and the broader Women of Innovation Committee, congratulations to all of these finalists who are recognized, and I'll turn it back over to Elizabeth.
Thank you, Kerry and Jackie, for the exciting news, and you'll be hearing a lot more about these nominees in the weeks to come. Now I'd like to introduce today's moderator for our webinar, Karen Mull, who is VP Operations Payveris LLC and Women of Innovation Committee member. Over to you, Karen.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Welcome, everyone. So happy to have you here today. Please join me as we welcome Melissa Petruska. She's a research scientist that will share with us the joys of scientific discovery and the diversity of research experiences that led to her passion for working with great people to create and implement technology to enhance well-being, protect the environment, and build a business. She will discuss the lessons learned at key moments throughout her journey that she uses to help young women navigate their own career paths. I'm so excited to hear from you today, Melissa. Throughout her career, she has delivered innovative materials solutions to technical and environmental challenges. In her current role as senior researcher and principal investigator at Sonata Scientific, Melissa develops novel catalysts for air purification and self-disinfecting surfaces. These materials can be used in diverse ways to improve air quality, increase the shelf life of fresh produce, and provide protection against surface-borne bacteria and viruses. She has a BS in chemistry from Carnegie Mellon University and a PhD in chemistry from the University of Florida, and is a co-author on 36 scientific publications and a co-inventor on 15 issued patents. Melissa is also a 2020 Women of Innovation Finalist in the Small and Medium Business Leadership and Innovation category. Please join me in welcoming Melissa today. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, Karen, for that very kind introduction. And I wanted to first take a moment to congratulate all of the finalists for this year's Connecticut Women of Innovation. You're joining a diverse, dynamic, creative group of women and a fantastic community. So I hope you get a chance to celebrate with friends and family and coworkers today. I'd like to thank the Connecticut Technology Council and the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology, I think I got it right, and the Women of Innovation for hosting this seminar series and for inviting me to be a speaker. As a scientist, I've given a number of talks about my research, but this is the first time I've had an opportunity to share my story. And like any good experimentalist would do, I did a lot of research before I put this presentation together. And I started with looking at the stories of other women in STEM fields. And that's one of my favorite things to do. I really enjoy learning about the technology that women have developed throughout history and how they got to that place and the adversity that they've overcome. And I listened to some of the previous webinars in this seminar series. And if you haven't done that already, I certainly encourage you to do that. One of the things that, as a scientist, certainly speaking about my research, I've always been very excited to do that. I've always felt that that was very important. But I think it's very important for scientists, especially female scientists, to share their stories, because we really get a sense of just how much we have in common. So here I just have an image of 16 women who have made significant contributions to science and technology throughout history. And as a scientist, I'm paid to notice things. And as an introvert, I spend a lot of time thinking about things. And so certainly I could have picked any number of women to put on this slide. This was taken from a website. Somebody had compiled this picture already. But one of the things that I noticed is that many of these women had made their contributions, their significant contributions, or had their achievements before I graduated from high school, and most of them before I was even born. And not a single one of these achievements or accomplishments showed up in any textbook throughout my whole early education. And so in the 30 years since I've graduated high school, I hope that's changed. And I really encourage textbook authors and editors to include these stories alongside the achievements of their male counterparts, so that, starting at an early age, boys and girls can see how normal it is for women to make these contributions. And they can get a better sense when girls are choosing their own paths, that it's very normal and common for girls to want to be scientists and engineers. So I grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and throughout the 70s and 80s, and I felt it really was as dismal as Billy Joel sang about in his song. So by the time I got to high school, I was really itching to get out of Allentown. That's me a long time ago. That was me as a high school senior, and I look rather eager and earnest. But to be honest, behind that smile and that 90s hairstyle was someone who really didn't know what she wanted to do. My mother was a very strong woman. She didn't have an opportunity for education, and she worked factory jobs to support my brother and support me. And she made it very clear early on that if we were to have any choices in life, we would have to go to college. So I grew up knowing that I would go to college. And she also believed in me and made it clear that if I worked very hard, I could be whatever I wanted to be. And I think that's an important message, an important gift that all children should have. One of the things that Allentown did quite well is there were a lot of phenomenal teachers in the public school system. And I never felt that I couldn't do something because I was a girl. So there were a lot of women in my high school, in my graduating class, who went on to have very successful careers in STEM areas. So that's a testament to that. One of the things that my high school did not do very well was career counseling. I believe I took a test where we talked about what we liked and what we didn't like. I liked science, I liked math, and the list came out, and I'm sure engineering was near the top. And like any student, good student in the 90s, I went to the ancient form of Wikipedia, the encyclopedia, to look up what an engineer did, because I didn't really know what an engineer did. And I had a particularly old set of encyclopedias at home. So I looked up engineering, and it said that an engineer was someone who drove a train. And so I thought, great, I love trains. So that's how I got involved in engineering. I chose chemical engineering because I had a really great chemistry class and a very good chemistry teacher in high school. So that was my path. And I applied to schools that had strong chemical engineering programs. And I moved from one steel town across the state to the next. And I went to Carnegie Mellon University. And it was a wonderful experience for me. It was a really good match. And the first thing that happened at Carnegie Mellon was I had an intro to chemical engineering class in my freshman year. And it was pretty clear to me that if I was very early on in that class, that if I was going to choose this career path for myself, that I would be miserable. And so I endured that class, and I quickly changed my major to chemistry. Now, I didn't really know what I was going to do with a chemistry degree because I liked learning about chemistry, but I didn't like my lab classes. So I didn't necessarily know exactly what would happen, what I would choose for my career, but I enjoyed my classes. And one of the things that Carnegie Mellon did very well, they did many things very well, but they were very strong in encouraging undergraduates to do undergraduate research. And what was nice about this is because they were so encouraging, they were very proactive about bringing undergraduates into the program, which was great for an introvert like me, because I didn't have to do the reaching out. And we had a fantastic undergraduate coordinator, Karen Stump, who matched us with faculty members. And I got matched with Rick McCullough. And at that time, he was an assistant professor, and he was building his research group, and he did research in materials chemistry. And when I started with Rick, he paired me with a graduate student, John Ballot. And so we can see Rick and John Ballot. This picture was taken about 10 or 15 years after this experience. I didn't take many photographs when I was in school. But John was a very gifted synthetic chemist. And so I had the opportunity to learn techniques and learn how to do synthesis. And I think the most important gift that these two, and especially John, gave me was the love of science. He loved science more than anyone I've ever known. And so really having that passion around science and chemistry, and having that research experience, and having what Sarah Wojcicki called that authentic science experience, and I like that. So I'm borrowing that from her presentation a few months ago. But that authentic science experience really set me on my path, both in the type of chemistry that I do and in continuing with research. So this is Mellon Institute. This is where the chemistry department is housed, and this is where I spent a lot of my time. And I continued for 2.5 years in that program. And it went beyond, it certainly went beyond these two people. The entire department was outstanding. And so there was a lot of influence from the faculty members, the other graduate students and undergraduates. So it was just an exciting and dynamic place to be. So I knew very quickly that I would be going to graduate school. And when I graduated from Carnegie Mellon, I moved to Gainesville, Florida, and I started work at the University of Florida. And that is the hood where all the magic happened. That is the hood, but I took that picture a few years ago when I was visiting. So somebody else is occupying it now. I hope it brings them as much luck as it brought me. It's certainly cleaner than when I was there. But again, I continued doing synthesis. I continued in materials chemistry. And I had the good fortune to have another wonderful advisor, Dan Tallum, who is there with me at graduation. And so in the science education, as many of you who are still listening, know, you learn a lot more than just science. You learn how to be a problem solver. You learn how to become very analytical in deconstructing problems. You learn how to accept failure as a part of trying, to get comfortable with failure, to make data-driven decisions, and to really persist and persevere in your work. And so I learned all of those things. And one of the best gifts that Dan Tallum, my advisor, gave me was he really focused a lot on communication skills, which scientists being able to communicate what they're doing is just about as important as the research that they're working on. And so this was both written and oral communication skills. And he focused on this. He helped all of his students focus on this. And as you can probably tell, I'm not the most natural speaker, but I know that I came a long way from beginning to the end of graduate school. And it was time well spent, because by the time I gave my thesis defense, I was able to, give a very effective presentation, and I was able to use that presentation when I was looking for jobs. So we've heard a lot of these skills that come out of these types of environments for students, and we're talking about mentoring, and we're talking about encouraging and recruiting and retaining women in science. A lot of the things I've just talked about are really key for a lot of people. So I just wanted to reiterate them there and really put a face with those skills, and just to be there to agree that, yes, these are very important. The mentorship, really getting someone excited about what they're doing. I think that goes a very long way. The work can be very challenging. It doesn't always work out. There could be a lot of failures, but if you're excited about what you're doing and you have a lot of enthusiasm for it, and for me, especially as an undergraduate, it was like playtime in the lab. And we were joyful about the discovery and learning how to learn to be the first person to do something. We celebrated those successes. And the authentic science experience, I think that when I talk with young people about careers in science, I encourage them to get that as soon as possible, even in high school if you can. Intern at small companies or large companies, undergraduate research, there are summer research programs, but really to see what it is, if you can make a career in science, and if you can get that joy and that passion for science. And one of the things, I think the thing that convinced me to stay in science were the people. For me, working with really good people was one of the most important aspects of that early training. And just hearing their stories. I love to hear people's stories. And some people are really good storytellers, and I got a lot out of that, and there was a lot of joy. And so I really just fell in love with the scientists and technical people. So I want to be clear that even though I got my PhD and I liked research a lot, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I did know that I didn't want to be a professor. I was not excited by, I didn't envy the lifestyle, especially in the beginning when people were looking to get tenure. So I didn't feel that that was something that I wanted to do. And at that point in time, I didn't see myself as wanting to run my own research group. What I liked is I like to be the one in the lab doing the science, playing. So I didn't know where I could do that. So I started looking for jobs, and I ended up moving to Texas, Beaumont, Texas, which is on the Gulf Coast. And I worked at a rather large company called BASF. And I joined BASF when their slogan was, "We don't make the products you buy, we make the products you buy better." And now they've changed their slogan to "We create chemistry." But they're a very large chemical company, and their procedure, at least at that time when they brought in new graduates, was to have them explore the company through a series of rotations. So 3 rotations in 2 years. And so my first rotation was in Texas. This was the group of people that I worked with. You can see that I don't look very much like them. But it was a wonderful team experience. And one of the things that I think is that I hadn't had up until this point, because I think when we're in school, we're so focused on our own research, we're so focused on finishing up that degree or publishing papers. So we're very self-involved. So this was the first experience I had where I really worked with a team for something. And so I had the chance to learn from a great group of people, and I had the chance to celebrate successes with a great group of people. And I liked that team environment. I liked doing science as a team. I found a lot of value in that. And in the Beaumont, Texas area, if you've ever been there, there are a lot of refineries. And so it's hard to drive anywhere without seeing these monstrous plants, and to get a sense for these communities where these plants are housed. And I didn't work in the petroleum industry at BASF. We were working on agricultural products, but I still got a good sense of that area and the type of industry that was going on there. When it came time to leaving for my next rotation, I looked in the company, and there wasn't really a lot that I was interested in doing. As much as I enjoyed that experience and learned a lot and got a chance to work with great people, I really wanted a meatier research experience. And so I made what was a very difficult decision at that time to quit that job. And I took a postdoc at Los Alamos in New Mexico. And if you've never been out west, I encourage you to go and explore. And New Mexico particularly is just as enchanting as you can imagine. It's a beautiful place. And I switched areas. I had been working in materials chemistry, switched to catalysis at BASF, and then started working in nanotechnology. And at that time, this was the early 2000s, early part of the century, there was a big boom. A lot of the work that I did had been started in the 90s, and so there was a lot of energy around this field. And it was a non-classified research at Los Alamos, so our group had the opportunity to hire the best and the brightest postdocs from all over the world. And so in this experience, I got a good view into why diversity is so critical when you're looking at solving big complex problems. And I don't know if you can see it because it's quite small, but I put little flags on just to highlight where all of these people are from. And this is a snapshot of the group, probably when I was my 4th year there, by the time I had become a staff member. But so the group is very dynamic. We've had postdocs coming in, going out. And so it didn't always look exactly like this, but people from all over the world, all different countries, and then coming in with all different science backgrounds. So we had a team of chemists and physicists and material scientists and spectroscopists. And there's so much value in having that diversity to solve complex, challenging problems, and to really thinking about how people's experiences, how they use those experiences to address problems, to come up with solutions. So that was a very special time. And for most of the time at Los Alamos, it was an excellent research experience. When I became a staff member, I had to focus more on getting funding because we were in the non-classified section. We had to obtain external funding to support ourselves. So I did a lot of writing for proposals. And then at some point, there was a change in the work environment, and it became not the best work environment. And what I found for me is that that work environment was very critical for my happiness and my success, for being able to be the best scientist that I could be. So the work environment, I wasn't happy there anymore, and that really reflected in the fact that I wasn't enjoying the research anymore either. So I made the decision to leave that experience, and I got a job in Connecticut, and I moved closer to home. And I've been in Connecticut for, I think, 16 years now. And my first experience in Connecticut was working at a company, Advanced Technology Materials in Danbury. And they were later purchased by Integris, and they still operate under Integris. But ATMI, and now Integris, creates material solutions for the semiconductor industry. And after leaving Los Alamos, I had that meaty research experience, and I really had my fill of that research experience, and I was ready to kind of shift gears to doing more applied work. And it's for the first time that I was in industry for any length of time, I was really got a sense of the distinction between a technical success and a commercial success, and the importance of having both in industry. As a researcher in academics or even the national lab, a technical success is a technical success. You get a paper, you get presentations, you can get funding. But an industry technical success without a customer who wants to buy your product is a commercial failure. And that's no one's really happy with that. So we learned a lot more about doing research in industry. It's more than generating knowledge. It was really creating solutions. So that was a very good lesson to learn. Partway through my time at ATMI, I joined a new group. It was an emerging group within the company where we were tasked with building a business around very specialized carbon that this gentleman here, Don Carruthers, and another co-worker at the lab at Sturm had developed for a specific application. So we were looking for new uses. So our group was really building a business, building a new business within a business. So kind of had that startup mentality. And this was, it happened very organically, but Don really became my new mentor. And what an amazing human Don is. And so it was such a wonderful experience to have to work with somebody who was such a professional and had such expertise in this area, so that had any questions or I needed to learn anything, he was a few people down and he would answer all my questions. So it was a spectacular experience. Our team grew to about 10 or 11 people, and everybody was very committed to making this business work. And it was an excellent team experience. And so again, really, for me, success means working with really good people. And so the key learnings here were the power of diversity, the importance of the work environment for me to be happy. I had to work in a place where I feel seen and heard and where my contributions are valued. And that was very important. And when I was working at ATMI and Integris, it was important that we were working on something that mattered, and we were really building that. And so things were quite nice at Integris and for a long time. And then, I'm sure it wasn't sudden, although it seemed sudden at the time, the business decision was made to discontinue funding that effort. And along with that business decision came the dismissal of a good portion of our group. And well, nobody likes to be fired, and so that was not a good day, and maybe not a good couple of days. But I think that, you know, reflecting on it a few months later, it's been 5 years now since that experience ended. I think one of the biggest challenges with being let go of a company in that way is realizing or coming to the realization that it's not a personal decision, but it's something that you have very little control over when you're working. At least for me, when I was working, and you know, I was always believed that if I worked very hard and our team worked very hard and we did our job and we were successful, that we would continue to have a job. And that's not always the case. Decisions are made by people, and you know, that sometimes there's a fallout, and in this case we were the fallout. And it took, actually for me, because I had a lot of twists and turns in my path, and I felt that I had some flexibility and resilience. I knew I had to really look at this ending as a new beginning, and figure out where I was going to go next in my path. And so that brings me to the present day and my work here at Sonata Scientific. And my one of the founders, Peter, who's right here, he reminded me yesterday that little introverted Melissa actually came to Sonata to talk about the work that they were doing and to see if there would be an opening or if there would be an availability, if they could hire me to join their team. And so they did create a position for me. And so they took a chance on me, and they had a vision for where they wanted their company to go. And I was hired to help them get there. And so what I didn't realize was that 5 years ago, when that job ended, that it was really the start of one of the most exciting moments or times in my career. And I'm happy to say that we successfully received funding within a year with the National Science Foundation and the Small Business Innovation Research, the SBIR program, that's managed through the federal government. And so what they funded was a program for developing light activated materials to break down VOCs in the air, so to improve air quality. And this has implications in commercial and residential and industrial environments, and even for outdoor air pollution. So we think about the image that I showed from when I worked at BASF and the air quality in these areas where, in these communities that neighbor these refineries, is very poor. And so we can start to think that maybe we can apply our technology and help people in these areas. So now I had a new title. I was a principal investigator. And so this was a very, very dynamic and very exciting time in my career. I'm the inventor of the material that enables this technology. And it has since morphed from just being for cleaning air into creating antimicrobial surfaces, self-disinfecting surfaces. And the seeds for this work were sown before the pandemic, but certainly, you know, the last 18 months have shown the relevance of our efforts to these bigger societal challenges. So to have the ability to, you know, so I've always enjoyed the research that I've done. I've always been able to really get into that research. That's something I've always enjoyed, science and learning about science, and I've always been excited about that. But working on developing solutions for problems that society has, or for helping to improve the health and well-being and the environment, is really the icing on the cake. And so it really takes it to the next level. But the best thing about my job is working with this team of people. Unfortunately, I don't have a photograph of our current team, and so it looks a little different, but this was the original Sonata Scientific team. And this was our original space. And so I work with a fantastically hardworking, enthusiastic, creative, good, kind humans, and it's a pleasure to come to work every day. And through all of this, one of the most exciting things that have happened recently is that we have our first products that we've gotten into the market, and that's been a tremendously great achievement for us, and certainly is very much a team effort. And so, again, working on a team, we celebrate the successes, and there's nothing better than celebrating those successes as a team. So when I was preparing this talk, Elizabeth asked me to comment a little bit about what I've seen change for women in science since I've been in science. And certainly now that I've worked at some smaller places, I don't maybe have as good a sense as having worked at a large company. I will say that I've worked with amazing scientists, but amazing women, strong women, both in their technical skills and in their opinions, and very talented and innovative women in my career, and that's been a pleasure. I know that a lot of studies are done looking at statistics, and one of the most challenging places to really improve the numbers has been for female faculty members in the physical sciences. This is in the chemistry departments. This is the statistics from the American Chemical Society, which is a fantastic organization if you're a chemist. And one of the things that I noticed when I read this article, which was written a few years ago, was that yes, they were having trouble getting women to go and become faculty. But what they were seeing was, in a lot of cases, women were starting their own businesses. And if they weren't starting their own businesses, they were maybe some of their graduate work was being spun off into a startup, and they were working there. And I have to say, especially after because of my current experiences, a small business is a really empowering place for a woman to be, especially if you get in when it's quite small. You really have a lot of opportunity to for setting your environment, your culture, for creating a diverse work environment that's inclusive, and it's just, and you can make such a difference in both the work environment, in the direction of the company, and in the technical work. So I think small business is where it's at. So certainly, even for those of you out there who might be listening to this, who are young women who are looking to start your career, inquire with small businesses for opportunities, for internships. You might find that you be proactive. Even if it's hard, you might find that you get everything you want. So I started the talk off with 16 faces of women who have made important contributions in science throughout history, and I'm ending this presentation with just 4. I could have put 100 on there, but these just happen to be women that either I know about through the research that I do, or who are very famous faces, or I've been reading about their stories. And it's so inspiring, and you can look in any university department and find women who are doing extremely interesting, intriguing, innovative things in science and technology. And I encourage everyone to do that. It's very motivating, it's very inspiring, whether you're mid-career, end career, or just starting out. And to read their stories, and to share their stories, and to share your own story. Thank you.
I love that you, just like made a way, asked for a job where there was no job, and you just went for it. Such an inspirational story today, Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to ask for questions from the audience. I have a couple questions for you, but if the audience would like to ask Melissa any specific questions, please feel free to use the Q&A. We'll be happy to share those out here live in the moment. So You definitely had many people inspiring you over the years, Melissa. I think you know, starting even with your mother, right? You described some of that to us, but tell us like some of the good pieces of advice that you were given throughout your career.
Yes, I think certainly there are many pieces of advice, personal and professional. One of the most interesting pieces of advice that was really given to me, not as advice, maybe, and I remember this a lot because I apply it to different parts of my life, not just technically, but it was a postdoc that I worked with at Los Alamos, and we didn't work in the same group, but we were occupying the same space for a short time. And she was doing a different kind of science, but she was telling me how her approach to problems. And she was saying, as she's trying to figure out what she's going to be working on, I might, you know, she might give something, she might give it a 2-week period of time where she tries something, or, you know, a month. And if it doesn't work, she changes gears. And, you know, this was a revolutionary way for me to think, because I come out of graduate school where we do have some luxury of time, and I had that strong desire to really make something work, no matter how long or how much it took. You know, if there was some way that I was going to solve this problem, I wanted to solve that. But, you know, moving into the postdoc and then certainly working in industry, we don't have that luxury of time. And so I had to grow to really implement that advice. I had to grow comfortable with realizing that just because I couldn't make things work in a short amount of time doesn't mean that I wasn't talented or a good chemist. It's just, you know, when time is a factor, we need to look at things that you know, maybe work well, so that we can invest more time in them and really see them take off. I think that and I've been able to apply that to other things. Certainly when I made my decision to leave Los Alamos, that was a factor. When things aren't working, you know, you can give it a certain amount of time. The old me might have just banged my head and said, I'm going to make this work, I'm going to make this work, because that's who I am. But, you know, at some point you have to just say, you know, I gave it this amount of time, this isn't working, I'm not feeling successful, and it's time to move. So that ended up being a very useful piece of advice that I still look back on today.
Yeah, it's really helpful. Setting boundaries, and you know, don't let perfection be the enemy of good or great, yes. Right? So yes, that's awesome. Yeah. So we do have a question from the audience. How would you encourage the young women of today to start and excel in their career in STEM, especially when the field is still tremendously male dominated?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it goes back to some basic points. Certainly, that authentic science experience was extremely important for me. So if you're interested, and you know, I think about it now, I go back and I think I could have been, you know, maybe if I would have had a little bit more comfort around approaching people, I might have, instead of just leaving chemical engineering because I didn't like that one class, I might have talked to some of the chemical engineering professors. But, you know, to be proactive as possible, to get that experience in industry or in research or in some way, so that you can see what a scientist does and you can make connections. And I hope that, you know, we have organizations that kind of encourage women to do that, or where women can feel confident enough to do that. I realize, and because I remember, it would have been very daunting for me to approach someone that I didn't know and say, oh, you know, I did it, but I did it many years later when I had a lot of confidence. But out of those experiences, I think very organically you can grow that, or find that mentor. So it's not that you're looking for a mentor and trying to identify someone, but that just kind of naturally falls out. And that certainly happened for me, especially at Carnegie Mellon. I do want to point out that my mentors you saw were all men in that experience, in my experiences. And I've talked with a number of young women, and I understand the value in having a woman mentor. And I know that a lot of women are looking for that. And when you can get that, I think that's extremely valuable. And if it's important to you, I encourage you to do that. But I also encourage you to just have a mentor. To me, the most important things about a mentorship is really growing that relationship that's built on trust and respect. And what my mentors have done for me, even the mid-career mentor, and I consider Dawn when I worked at ATMI to be a mentor, and even the people at my company now at Sonata Scientific, mentoring me in different skills and growing businesses. I think that what a mentor does, if they do it well, is give you confidence and really believe in you until you're ready to believe in yourself. So I think definitely the authentic science experience, the mentorship. One of the things that I think is really key, like I said, I'm paid to notice things. So when I showed the 4 women at the end, or the 5 women at the end on the end slide, I had read about them. I don't know about Mariam, the mathematician. I don't know about her early life, but the other women in that on that slide grew up in families where at least one of their parents had a degree in higher education, and I think they had a lot of stimulating discussions at home, and they were raised in environments where they were taught to ask questions. And I would hope that, as much as not everybody has that, I didn't have that. My mother did many wonderful things, and she taught me, she believed in me, and she did many wonderful, set an example in many different ways, but I didn't have that experience. And so I think that one of the ways for, women to get women into science is to really encourage them to have these conversations, or to have a place where they can have those conversations. But if you're a woman, I think at a certain level too is, for me, when I was going into science, I was comfortable with the fact that there would be a lot of men in that environment. I had the good fortune of having a very nurturing environment. I then did have that environment, especially at Los Alamos, where there were some things that happened that maybe happened because I was a woman, where I met with that kind of, that power, that male-dominated area. I think mentorship is important in talking to maybe women who've had those experiences to maybe better help you navigate that. So I just think finding that experience and finding mentors to help you when you come in, when you encounter challenges, I think that's a good way to get started.
Yeah, I think that's really important advice, and it goes along with some of the other things in your career journey where you just did ask those questions and you did reach out where you needed that help and support. And just even looking at the list of Women of Innovation finalists today, right? Like this is like, we have such a powerful network right here in Connecticut of extremely talented women in science and technology, and all of this field, that there's so many inspiring people that we can reach out to each other and connect. So
absolutely, and I think that's where the power of sharing these stories are. I think we have a lot more in common than we might think we do, and so I think hearing people's stories, seeing that maybe someone they've had an issue similar to what you're encountering, and just reaching out to them for advice, or even just to talk and just to feel heard. I think that's very powerful, and I think that helps, especially if you're feeling maybe very female in a male heavy environment. But I will say, when I was at BASF, you saw the photograph. That was just the chemists. There were 4 or 5 chemical engineers that were all men. And in fact, I was the only woman in the technical field at that site. But that particular group of people, they were the best. I mean, they made me feel very welcome. It was a very good experience there. So.
Excellent, so inspiring, and really appreciate your time and putting all of that together for us and sharing your experience with us today.
Thank you.
I don't know. I think we're right up to the top of the hour. Definitely appreciate everyone attending today, spending your lunch hour with us. Want to save the date for the 17th Annual Women of Innovation on October 14th at 5 p.m. More information will be coming soon, but I hope you all have a great day and really enjoy taking away and taking a minute to think on some of these things that Melissa shared with us today. Very inspiring.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you.
Back to you, Elizabeth, or if we're wrapped up.
Well, I just want to say thank you to Melissa and Karen for all you do that inspires confidence in Connecticut's young women with a passion for STEM. It really is a significant contribution. So thanks very much. And please mark your calendars for Thursday, October 14th. Thanks and goodbye.
Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, like I said, I think I certainly never had the chance to share my story. So it was a great time. It was fun.